Good afternoon, and thank you for attending Bringing in New Revenue Streams from ATSC 3.0 Infrastructure. TV News Check welcomes Mary Krabasa, Vice President of Major Accounts with LTN Global, who will be moderating today's webinar. Thank you for being here, Mary. Take it away.
Thank you, Alyssa, for the introduction, and thanks to TV News Check and LTN for giving me the opportunity to moderate this awesome panel. I'm so excited to introduce you to our ATSC 3 experts. But before I do, let me quickly share with you a little bit about the opportunity and why we titled this webinar, Bringing in New Revenue Streams from ATSC 3 Infrastructure. ATSC 3, also known as Next Gen TV, gives broadcasters enormous flexibility, enabling them to transmit their existing broadcast programming commitments with a part of the spectrum data capacity that's available to them. They can use their remaining spectrum capacity for datacasting, GPS services, autonomous vehicle control, and other non-TV use cases to drive additional revenue. ATSC 3 enables the delivery of 4K and/or HDR video experiences, while advanced advertising capabilities supported within ATSC 3 represent a huge opportunity to enhance ad value. And think of this, new data casting revenue from Next Gen TV could reach $5 billion by 2027 and $10.7 billion in new revenue by 2030, accounting for 22% of the total local broadcasting revenues by 2030, according to the BIA Advisory Services. A consideration, ATSC 3 won't be widely adopted before Next Gen TVs are commonplace in our households. And the numbers look good. Sales for 2021 exceeded 3 million receivers. 4.5 million in 2022 are expected, and 11 million or more are expected in 2023, plus a new line of 3.0 set-top boxes. Sinclair and its partner in BitPath, Nexstar, state that its next-gen TV signals reach 40% of households in their station's footprints, and the industry as a whole reaches 45%. Now, let me introduce the panelists. John Hain, President, BitPath, the consortium that oversees and manages our ATSC 3 launches. Carrie Osland, VP Strategy and Business Development, EW Scripps. Brett Jenkins, EVP and CTO, Nexstar Media Group. And Mark Aiken, SVP of Advanced Technology, Sinclair Broadcast Group, and President of One Media. Before we get started, I want to just let all the attendees know that they can put their questions in the Q&A tool at any time during this webinar, and we will be getting to those questions at the end of the event. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for being here with us today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So let's begin with the first question, which is for each of you, but we will start with John Hain first. John, which key new revenue streams are you looking to build out with ATSC 3?
Thanks, Mary. Well, over the full span of time that 3.0 will be in operation, we want to try to exploit, most of the opportunities that have been talked about widely. It's a little more focused to just answer what we want to focus on at first. And as you well know from all the help that you've given us in our many, many market rollouts, we don't have a lot of capacity in 3.0 today. So we have to be economical with our usage of data bits for anything really other than for over-the-air service. So we're looking first at areas where we can get a lot of bang for the bit. And we believe initially, the first thing that we want to pursue is location services, because the market for that is huge. It already exists. You don't have to explain it to people. It already exists. We think we have a very promising niche within it, and that we can exploit that further, and that we can build, with something like location services, with many other data services, we're not limited to the revenue we get from providing the service over the air and using our capacity. We can also build other businesses on top of that. So to the extent we can do things more efficiently than other enterprisers and service providers, then we can, exploit vertically of that value chain. So we like location types of services. They are applicable to mobile. They're applicable, I think, in the very first instance, and the first customers will be commercial customers, B2B. But they have relevance in automotive and transportation, trucking, dispatch, delivery, also in IoT and many other places. So we want to start with that. And we think there are other areas within IoT, particularly security, that we think are very promising, that don't take a lot of data, but provide disproportionate value. So those are the sorts of places where we want to look at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you, John. That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. So how about you, Carrie? Which key new revenue streams are you looking to build out with ATSC 3?
Yeah, well, like with John, a number of them. But I mean, if we have to, sort of narrow it down to where we start, for no other reason, all of us should be going and moving fast and headlong towards ATSC 3 because of just capacity and the ability to do, and I'm using round numbers, and these are fungible numbers, but twice as many channels, twice as many HD, as many SD as we potentially want to do, and all of those are opportunities, revenue opportunities. And then the second part I would just classify as another C, commerce. And inside of commerce, I would include addressable advertising and interactive advertising. And also, as we move forward, the ability to transact through your television set and just by using a remote control. And then the opportunities as we move down the timeline are huge. But sort of capacity and commerce, this is what we do. This is what we know, and we're certain that we can monetize our new capacity and abilities to do twice as much.
Wow, cool. That's very cool. So Brett, which key new revenue streams are you looking to build out with ATSC 3?
Yeah, I'm trying to, I guess as you work down the line, we have to just like keep going down the list. But, look, great answers from John and Carrie. We agree with all those. I mean, I will say this, I think I'm the most excited about the word new in your question, right? Because I think that's where we look at, we know our business, our industry, broadcast television, is pretty mature. What's really exciting to me about ATSC 3.0 is the idea that we can actually enter into these new businesses in a highly regulated, mature business. So I think we're super excited about some of the opportunities that John discussed, and of course working closely with BitPath to exploit those opportunities in the I'll call it datacasting space, right? Can we start with these low bandwidth applications? I think the IoT space is primed, and a good example where ATSC 3.0 can fill a role that current traditional wireless infrastructure doesn't fill. It's a big pipe. It's always on. It's ubiquitous. It's very, very low cost to deploy from a CapEx standpoint. So I think that's where we're probably most excited at Nexstar, is to get into these new businesses. I will piggyback a little bit on Carrie. We are 100% of the same mind when anybody sort of questions me about, like, well, how are you actually going to make money with this? There's a market for broadcast bits today, and it's developed over the past several years in this multi-channel, multicast, diginet business. And so it's pretty clear that there are companies that make money in that space, and they come to broadcasters and they want to use our spectrum because it's very efficient and has great distribution. And so, growing that marketplace, I think, is also of interest to us. But maybe more importantly, it's a sign to me that, hey, there actually is this marketplace out there for people who want to do what these people are doing, which essentially is distributing bits to end consumer devices. So again, we're excited about those new streams that we might be able to take opportunity to exploit.
That sounds great. Thanks so much. And Mark Aiken, what do you think about the new revenue streams and what you're looking to build out on it?
Yeah, I mean, look at all of these new opportunities are data driven, right? I mean, video is data, e-learning is data, GPS augmentation is data. So for us, the focus is data distribution as a service. That's sort of the broad range, what we're focusing on, and even ATSC as a standards organization is focused on that, enabling the interconnectivity across these otherwise disparate TV station islands and tying them together in a meaningful way so that you can provide a meaningful data distribution service. I think the first out of the box revenue that is soon to be achieved is built around the interactivity, as Carrie said, the broadcast app, which brings consumers in front of not just our broadcast over the air content, but a whole, as big as the internet kind of reach inside of that environment. Because a new 3.0 television set really is a browser in every meaningful way, not much different than what people are watching this streamed service over today. So when you bring that level of experience together of live linear broadcasts as we're used to it, data distribution as various augmentation to that of different types of files, and OTT, there's not a losing proposition. And the last point there, I guess, is we've long been focused on unlocking and unleashing the power of that being made mobile. So that's a longer reach. There's there are infrastructure issues that are being tackled for that, but I think ultimately all of these new services will be available to people wherever they are on the device that they're most used to having in front of them.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic. So the second question is also again for everyone, but I'll start at the top of the line again with John Hain. John, what do you see as the biggest advantage of ATSC 3 for your business?
Well, I guess, given that our exclusive focus is datacasting and datacasting services that we can build on top of the datacasting, it enables our business. And I do agree with what Brett said that, there is a datacasting business with Diginets today, but there are no devices. There's no device ecosystem. There are no sort of business models independent of free over-the-air video broadcasting that are achievable. There are exceptions here and there, but with 1.0, which is why nobody's reporting any ancillary services revenue to the FCC.
Right.
So the biggest advantage is that we now have a highly capable service agile platform that we can begin to monetize, and it creates the opportunity for a business like BitPath.
Nice. Sounds good. So Carrie, what do you see as the biggest advantage of ATSC 3 for your business?
Oh, I think, TV finally becomes part of the internet, and in becoming part of the internet, we are opening a new frontier for broadcasters. And what is so exciting is all of the new opportunities that can be created with an IP background, and I think that just the idea of this new frontier and so many ways to create and explore it, That's what's exciting for me, and it's exciting for me for the young people in broadcasting, because they're going to be taking this in ways that I don't think that I could possibly imagine for what, how many years I have left in my career. But that's exciting for me, is that these guys here on this panel, hopefully me and you, we're leaving broadcasting better than we found it, and through ATSC 3.
Absolutely. So Brett, same question for you. What do you see as the biggest advantage of ATSC 3 for your business?
Yeah, I think about, when I think about answering that question, I think about sort of ATSC 3 as a technology capability, and then what one thing in that is going to bring the highest value to the business. I still think it's probably capacity and efficiency is really the most important thing. The fact that we will be able to realize a 3 to 4-fold distribution capacity in effectively the same infrastructure, that same CapEx and OpEx kind of calculation. I mean, that's a pretty nice that's a pretty nice gain that the technology can bring to bear on the business, especially when you've been stuck sort of in the one regime for a long time. So I love that. And then I'll shout out to Kerry once again. He and I are the same mind. I think the very close second to that is the fact that the transport is built on IP, so that we're now in the sort of IP business, right? And that basically allows us to take advantage of so much of the openness that has been driving growth in the internet for the past 2 or 3 decades. Unleashing that power into our business, I think, is going to be very, very powerful.
Sounds good. And Mark, what's your thoughts on the biggest advantage of ATSC 3 for your business?
Yeah, well, it's the flexibility, and as Brett said, we were sort of stuck in this one business model, right, where one size had to fit all, and now we've got the flexibility to do very different things with the very same compatibility across devices. It takes more spectrum capacity to do mobile. It takes less capacity to do traditional over there to an antenna. So where's the audience you want to reach? And then there are tools inside of the standard, and they are tools. They're nothing but tools. They don't make the money. They are the things that allow us to put our spectrum to work. You start with that big tall tower, and you have a certain amount of capacity, depending on where's your sort of ring of consumers that you're trying to address. If you want to address more people more reliably, or if you want to reach more people with more capacity, there are tools like single frequency networks that allow you to deliver upwards of 60 megabits per second, depending on the density of the signal. So the variability and flexibility, the IP, certainly the IP backbone of this, couple that with the myriad in a converged environments of back channels where, so this is a broadcast IP standard, but it becomes internet when there's a return channel, and it becomes internet in every real way that people think of the internet. So that's another area that certainly, at the leadership level of ATSC, the notion of return channels and what they bring to bear on that equation of what is an advantage. Well, we'll build off of those.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. So this next question is for everyone again. So I'm going to go back to the top of the line, starting with John Hain. John, what excites you most about how ATSC 3 can transform TV viewing experiences?
Okay, so now we're switching a little bit from the pure over-the-air non-television data
Yes.
casting. In terms of the viewer experience,
Mhm.
you know, I think that remains to be seen, right? We don't know what the market is going to demand. What excites me most is that we now have an opportunity to, you know, potentially lead the market and certainly to follow, you know,
Mhm.
what's being done, you know, OTT and on other, you know, platforms that have more flexibility. Um, it, Not for the viewer, but for the broadcasters themselves. I think within the video business, what excites me most is the ability to monetize viewers directly without an MVPD middleman. I think that's absolutely critical as those business models, which sort of follow broadcast TV and then are declining, you know, ahead of
Mhm.
broadcast TV, that we need a way to get that subscription revenue. And without those third-party collection agents, there's just not a way to do it with 1.0. So that excites me because it creates a viable, robust, high cash flow business that can make those aggressive bids for the best programming and keep the platform, you know, not just relevant, but on top.
Mhm. Makes sense. So Carrie, what excites you most about how ATSC 3 can transform the TV viewing experiences?
uh, Enhanced content and the idea, you know, I use these terms a lot: win, play, vote, buy, bet, inform. For us to take what we already do or new versions of what we already do and apply those words, I think that's super exciting. And you know, I grew up producing television shows, and it would be so fun to have these tools, as Mark described them appropriately, to go back and produce television shows that have some of these elements in them that can make, I think, you know, TV's always going to have that lean back experience available,
Mhm.
but to have an engaging experience, a lean in experience, you know, I think that not only are we going to make a lot of money through enhanced content, I think that we're going to engage audiences in a way that we have been unable to do, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. And Brett, same question for you.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because my thinking has changed on this over the past couple years. If you had asked me this 2-3 years ago, I would have said, look, TV is a lean back experience. So, you know, you're probably going to look at 4K and just the quality, because that's kind of all you can do. And not that those things are insignificant, but I would have focused much more on that. I think, once again, I think Carrie is onto it here. The pandemic, it has, and maybe other technology drivers, but the pandemic has, I think, changed the way people are consuming TV much more quickly than you know, I would have thought it would have changed.
Mhm.
I think people have learned to pull much more now from their TV and to interact with their TV than 2 or 3 years ago pre-pandemic. And you know, I guess everyone was forced to, because there was nothing else to do but sit home and watch TV. So I do think that the ATSC 3 brings us now the ability to take those linear experiences and to make them a little more lean forward in the way that consumers, I think, have now trained themselves to use their televisions. So I am excited about those, you know, small and clever and incremental ways that we might be able to enhance the consumer experience. And again, TV really still is the killer app. Like that's the piece that's driving it all. But building some nice experiences around the TV experience, I think audiences, viewers will really love that. And I think it also, I mean, it's just obvious that is going to bring a lot of value to our clients in the advertising space.
Yes, definitely makes sense. And Mark, what about you?
Yeah. Look at it. It's certainly about the user experience, right? Bad user experience, no engagement. So good user experience and we have the opportunity to engage people in ways that they can't. It does start with, I think, leveraging better content and certainly better looking content. We've deployed advanced HDR by Technicolor in all of our markets, so people can see a startling difference in picture quality in traditional television. But then you go down the lines, and again, when you begin from a user experience standpoint, blurring the lines, they don't care if it's over the air or if it's over the top. They don't care as long as it is engaging. All the work that we're putting into sports and streaming activity, direct to consumer, all of those are brought together. And if you think, I like to think of it like you build a mall. The object is to get people in the mall, and then inside of that mall, with the right selection of stores and goodies and candy, there's something for everybody. And having audience measurement and having the ability to understand the nature of what people are viewing, how they're viewing it, what is their response to that experience, all those things are extremely important. Carrie mentioned betting. All of those different, I like Brett's use of the word clever, right? It's kind of like, you download an app on your phone today, and they have clever ways of finding a way to mine new revenue in those clever exploitations. And one other thing that I would add that we've been doing a lot of work on is ultra low latency. So the ability in that live experience to in an IP platform provide sub-second latency of content is essential to monetize around live events such as sports. So all of these things, I'm uber excited.
Sounds great, and it all makes sense. So the next question is specifically for Carrie. Carrie, how do you think the ATSC 3 rollout is progressing? And I think you have a slide you want to show us on this.
Yeah, I do. If you could put up that first slide. And I thought that we'd put a little rigor into some of the numbers here. And also, we have gone from a place where we used to have to explain, what it is, to a place where everyone's asking when. And before we sort of modeled based on hope. And now we don't have to model based on hope anymore, because the industry that represents the TV OEMs, they're coming out with their projections based on their polling of those OEMs. And so we kind of know exactly what's going to happen next year, and the projections of what's going to happen in the subsequent years. So this model here is based on CTA numbers, which is really exciting to have the CTA tell us, what the future of TV sales are going to look like. So I would encourage everyone to take a picture of this and create your own model. There's nothing proprietary about this at all. It basically starts off with key assumptions in the upper right-hand corner. That those are numbers that are kind of hard to argue with, but there's some fungibility in there. If somebody says there's 121 million households in America, somebody might say there's 122 million. I'm not going to argue with that. Change the number yourself and see what the outputs are. But down below, you'll see cells in yellow. One is from last year, 2021, and we know how many sets were sold in 2021, about 3 million, so says the CTA. And then CTA is projecting 25% of all TV sales will be 3.0 enabled in the next couple of years, and you can sort of move that timeline out and understand, when there are early majorities, late majorities, and when we start talking about phase outs of 1.0. So this has been very instructive for us in our company in terms of building strategies about what we need to do and the timeline we need to do it. And before we go to the next slide, let me just make a comment on that we can screw this all up if we if we don't do the right things. And one of the things that we are talking about a lot is, the enhanced content experiences that we're going to deliver to the early adopters. We believe that the first 10 million, adopters of 3.0 are going to have a lot to say about what the next 30 to 50 million will do or won't do. And all of us have lived through 3D television before, and we saw what screwed up 3D TV: a lack of content, bad content, headaches. there was that, and if we don't do something different with this opportunity that we have, shame on us. We will be 3D TV all over again. So we have to start doing things for the consumer that when they go to a 3.0 experience, they're going to see a tangible difference. And that's where our company will be moving more aggressively this year and in the coming years, so people can actually see the difference when they come into a 3.0 environment. And basically taking that spreadsheet that you saw before, laying it out in a timeline, a curve, if you will, and then all of those gray boxes under there, those are all of the things that we're pulling apart and working on. And this is scripts, but of course, it's I think that it's applicable to all broadcasters or those that are helping enable 3.0 to kind of take a look at all those things and sort of the sort and order that we're putting them in. If the underlying gray boxes, if I had to move anything earlier than in this timeline that I put together a few months ago, it would be measurement, because we have really moved fast on measurement, and we are able to see antenna connected 3.0 TV sets that are also connected to the internet. We can watch them come online in the markets where we are, which is fantastic. It's so fun. And in November, I had the opportunity to speak to the HBB-TV Association in Paris, and at that time, I showed them a little bit about where we were in real-time measurement. In just a couple of months, we've had 4 times the growth that we had when we were showing the numbers to HBB TV in Paris. And that's super exciting. And when I show that inside of our company, even those that have been proponents and supporters, they get more excited than they've ever been when they can actually see it. And it's so tangible. Not only can you see who's using this, where these TVs are being used, you can start looking at how far away they're being used. And so we absolutely know empirically and that an ATSC 3.0 signal has a further reach than the 1.0 signal. And that's a game changer.
Definitely a game changer. Wow, that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that information. It's perfect. So the next question is for John. How long will we be in this transitional phase?
Well, the way I count the end is when there are no 1.0 stations left. And that's going to be a very long tail, because we are probably going to want to maintain a lighthouse 1.0 signal. It may contain all the stations on the market, in the highest resolution we can provide. So if you look at the end, I would say 8 to 10 years. So this is a slide that shows the population coverage of 3.0 as of the year end of 21. So we're currently a little under half, and BitPass stations covering a little over a third. We will get that up significantly next year. We have another aggressive launch schedule. A lot of these, with some exceptions, are middle markets. Some bigger markets in here. I think 2022 you'll see characterized by, a smaller number of much larger markets, not larger, right? Not a lot of markets larger than LA, but, or Houston, but much larger markets, and a larger number of smaller markets and more mid markets. So, it'll take a while, but, as we are going horizontally, covering more of the population, we're going to be going back through and sort of providing more depth, adding more 3.0 capacity, so we can start doing some of the things both within and outside the core business that we want to do. This is something that we're not at a standstill during the transition, right? As I said before, particularly with smaller amounts of capacity available, there's still a lot we can do. We can certainly begin to monetize the highest value bits, the smallest number of bits that we think have the highest value. So, excuse me. So we're going to be doing some location services field trials in this quarter. We are most of the way there. We'll start with WIAV, a BitPath affiliated Sinclair owned low power, but with great coverage in Washington. We want to go then next to Portland and perhaps Salt Lake, where we're launched, and certainly Las Vegas, so that we're able to do demonstrations at conventions, and we will have a demonstration up for NAB. So anybody that wants to see that, there'll certainly be an opportunity for that.
Fantastic. That sounds great. So I'm going to ask the next question to Mark. What could stations be doing now to ensure they are ready to benefit from the new ATSC 3 driven revenue streams? And what are the immediate next steps?
Well, the immediate next steps are to ensure that there's the capacity available in a market to transition to 3.0. If you keep loading on relatively low value DigiNet services and you can't transition a market, then in fact you're really you're looking at short-term gains and long-term pains. So that's exceptionally important. By the way, just a news flash for folks. Today, MPEG LA announced the launching of their patent pool. So one of the hurdles of questions that are out there for manufacturers of what's it going to cost to build these products is answered, and I think they'll be pleased to find that that pool is substantially less costly than the ATSC 1 patent pool. The stations need to be talking. I mean, what John, what everybody here knows is that it's about the give and take in a marketplace, having the conversations early. How is distribution going to happen? Who becomes the host? What's the programming? And part of that is, as an industry, we've got to do some bold things. DigiNet's being moved to a different compression strategy, so that we can clear out stations to be converted to 3.0 are exceptionally important. And so the next steps are to start the conversation and begin, looking at the strategy for your marketplace. While it's easy, it's gotten easy. I mean, we've sort of productized the entirety of this process. To convert a station can be done with proper foreplanning in a matter of hours, quite literally, matter of hours. We typically have a countdown. A station's going to convert to 3.0 at 12. At 10 o'clock, we're doing all the necessary final things, but it's final things. John will tell you, just the regulatory side, the affiliate, permissioning side. By the way, there's a broad discussion going on to try to streamline that process so that the ask is fairly universal and well understood, so that we don't, if we can collapse the time to market on the regulatory and contractual side of things, it just becomes all the easier.
Sounds good. And interesting news on the pool. That's great. So the next question I want to ask Brett. Broadcast groups, as you know, because you're involved in it, have already been launching ATSC 3 successfully across the country. But what are Nexstar's future ATSC 3 launch plans for 2022 and beyond in order to capture these new revenue streams?
Yeah, I think it's probably more of the same in 2022, and it hopefully much more of the same, right? I think we've been sort of laboring under the assumption and marching to the assumption that building scale is really important. Television receivers, right, are not sold on a custom market basis, right? They're sold nationwide, and so achieving a nationwide footprint of these services as quickly as we can, I think is very, very important to lay that foundation. So in my view, 2022 is going to be another year of lots of market launches. I mean, Nexstar, I think we've publicly said we're going to try to get at least another 20 markets launched this calendar year, and try to get, just in terms of the Nexstar distribution footprint, up to half the country covered with a Nexstar owned or operated 3.0 signal. So they're pretty lofty goals, and it's going to take a lot of continued cooperation with our friends, Mark and Carrie and others, with the network O&O station groups, as well as we try to look to get these top markets transitioned, I think in 2022. So that's a key focus. Beyond that, this year, I do think this is the year where Nexstar and other groups start looking to take some of these little prototype, testing, science experiment type things that we've been doing, and trying to see if we can actually turn them into real revenue streams. And so we've got we've got 2 or 3 things in the hopper that we're thinking could be good candidates to at least, start to really get out there and sort of show to consumers or show to other businesses, the capabilities that we can have. So, we'll see. I think this is that first year that we dip our toe in the water in that space. But, even if we get to, 2/3 of the country covered in 2022, there's still another third to go. So I think we're going to be marching down this path for a while, and we just, we have to kind of keep moving the ball down the field methodically, in my view.
Totally makes sense. So we have a few questions from the audience, but before we get to them, I wanted to touch on one thing, and I'm going to ask John Hain this question. John, what have some of the biggest challenges been with the rollout of ATSC 3? And how have these challenges impacted your ability to, or the stations group's ability to get to market faster with these new revenue streams?
Well, so I think Mark answered a lot of that, Mary, and you know a lot of it from your own experience. The vendors have been great. In order to get to the new revenue streams, we do need to push the capability of, particularly on the reception side, we need some new devices and we performing upgrades in the transmission side. But for the most part, the issues have just been the sort of lousy hand we've been dealt by the spectrum situation, in that we have to fit our entire business into a subset of the available capacity while we're launching a new business. That's the hardest thing. Finding 3.0 hosts that are viable, that work for all the regulatory requirements and work for all the business requirements. But I think that the groups that are pursuing this, are pursuing it in earnest. It just takes time to work through the sharing situation and the regulatory. We do have a petition for rulemaking pending. Comments are coming up in February. It may improve the hosting situation a little bit. The more flexibility we have, the more efficiently we can use the available capacity, and the quicker we can get more 3.0 on the air.
Mary, can I make?
Yes, go ahead. Go for it.
One of the things that what Brett and John had certainly said and advocated. I mean, obviously we've got to keep rolling out markets, But we also have to work more closely this year, particularly with our OEM partners, particularly our oldest and best partners in the space, Sony, LG, and Samsung. We really want to spend a lot of time talking about what's in it for them in a larger way, and new business models that will be available to them. While we also reach out to new partners like Hisense, which I think we're all very excited about, but we still don't have Vizio, and we still don't have TCL, and we still don't have newcomers like Skyworth or Vestel, and a lot of these OEMs. And we need to tell them not only our story, and they will get what's in it for us, but they need to understand in a much deeper way what's in it for them. And we owe it to them as their partners in this to explain it better and to show them the business wins in it for them, besides better pictures and better audio, which is really steering wheels and brakes on a car. That's an expectation. Everything else is the game-changing stuff.
Very cool. And I have these questions from the audience, and I'm going to start with Adams first. He says he feels 3.0 will further open up digital budgets to broadcasters that traditionally have been firewalled off by clients. When do you think we will be able to monetize the real two-way data stream between advertiser and viewer, auto owners, buyers, and dealers, for example? Who wants to take that?
Well, I'll simply say that's a much larger question than ATSC 3, because some of it ties to what's being done in OTT. But the different side of it is that in local markets, you've got boots on the ground, and so there are all of the sort of office back end systems that need to tie into that environment, take advantage of the data analytics possible with what we now know people are doing and how they're using ATSC 3 from a reporting standpoint, if you will. But it's much larger than just the ATSC 3 standard. And I think, I mean, speaking personally, I think that the real beyond sponsoring and things like that are sort of easy sells. But when you get down to the more high value, dynamic ad insertion and those kinds of opportunities, I think you're really looking at a 2023 kind of time frame for that.
Yeah, and I would just add, and Mary, you know this as well as I do, these digital budgets and CTV budgets are opening up to us already in 1.0 as we're able to replace ads and in a 1.0 environment. So the more we do right now with getting those CPMs on linear television by making linear television and dumb inventory smart, the more we do right now is all setting us up for even better success with 3.0. And I don't know how much our audience knows about what's happening in the addressable space with 1.0, but it's moving very fast. Companies like yours, Mary, helping lead some of that. Definitely. And others out there. So those budgets are opening up to us, and we will be able to see those CTV CPMs come to linear television this year.
Sounds good. Now there's a second question, and it's from Ken. He says, with cable and satellite forcing non-a la carte options and collective costs of connected TV, including streaming services, going higher and higher, do you see an option for a la carte options where broadcasters compete with MSVPs? As retrans levels and potentially decreases, couldn't this be a viable option?
Subscribing and then dumping the subscription is the new a la carte. So you want to watch Yellowstone, you go ahead and you get your SVOD service for a month and then you quit it. That's the new a la carte. I don't know if you're going to see the bundle break and a la carte be more available to us in the next couple of years. I think it would be wonderful, if you had pick and play sort of options like Canada has experimented with. But but certainly, I think that the way you see consumers, subscribing and then unsubscribing is definitely the new a la carte.
Yes.
So, I think Chad Hearn just commented that isn't local TV already a la carte? He beat me to it. We already are. I think if the question is going to, do you build a multi-channel subscription video platform on 3.0 capacity? If that's really what the question is, that sort of goes to the comment I made before. We should be able to monetize. Obviously, it's always free to air, but we should be able to monetize value add like higher resolutions or additional services, or or mobility. So there should be a subscription component going forward, because you need that to subsidize the cost of really high value, high interest programming that you then make available to free to people who otherwise, would not be able to get it. So, I definitely think that's in the future. I don't know that, and again, this would not be something BitPath is doing, but whether there's a USD TV model for a skinny bundle and then making those programs available, those streams available a la carte. I mean, we're doing that today with Diginets and with the multiple channels we're broadcasting. The issue with a la carte, with the what would be called the core programming, the sort of non-broadcast cable programming, is not really technology. It's been the contract, it's been the rights, it's been the contracting terms. So and that model is sort of falling apart in part because of those contracting terms. So I mean, I don't personally see broadcasters replicating the MVPD model or even an a la carte version of that model, with 3.0. But yes, subscription services, including linear streams, absolutely.
And I think I'm aware that there's at least one company that's out there trying to play in this space. So certainly the spectrum and technical capabilities marry up nicely to be able to deliver this kind of service. I think the question really is, are the economics advantageous enough and the service compelling enough to sort of get consumers, excited about something about that? I mean, look, there is an economic advantage to broadcast over the air delivery for a service like this, not the least of which is you don't have to roll a truck to get it out to the house like a lot of competitive services have to do. So again, the question is that really enough to make a business of it? And we'll see. I think I agree with John. I'm not sure I would bet on that as the most likely scenario, but I can definitely see where, and I think, John, this is where you were going, there could be certain high value events that could be distributed over 3.0 in a subscription type model that, that type of business model, I think, is, well known in the industry and could work using 3.0 as a distribution mechanism, but we'll see.
Yeah, and if I could just add, I mean,
Sure.
at the end of the day, it's going to be how do you get the most revenue out of the resources you have available, period. But one thing when we talk about flexibility, there's also within the standard the ability to address future opportunities that aren't even implemented today. And in the realm of video compression, for example, it was the OTT guys who went early to HEVC because of a 4 times multiple over MPEG-2. But you've got other compression standards like VVC on the table that represent another 2 times advantage. So in that, I like to call it the mobile red box kind of service. You could see the value of the bits and that value. It's really about the value of spectrum capacity and how many useful bits you can get out of it and how you apply those bits to the service.
Yeah, that makes sense. The next question is from Jackson. He says, please give me one example of something that next gen can do that cannot be done today with existing infrastructure?
Twice as many TV signals. There's one example.
Content security. And I know my job is data services, but I spent decades in television and negotiated a few billion in retrans agreements. And just from that perspective, if we could do 3.0 and get content security and nothing else, it would be worth it.
Watching TV at 70 miles an hour. There's a thing.
Yeah.
Try to do it at 5 miles per hour right now with 1.0. Good luck.
I was going to add that, Carrie. Wait, how about watching TV when the wind blows against your antenna?
Or when you're not home.
Right.
Well, there's also the again, building off the IP nature of this, the tools that are available at the front end of this that allow, for example, multiple broadcasters to come together around currently that one channel in a market, but actually being able to segment the spectrum resources so that I can do on that physical channel something totally separate from what Carrie is doing and totally separate from what Brett is doing. Not just multiplexing, the same video codec, but in fact, the transport of bits at different quality of service levels with different profiles and different services. Not at all possible with 1.0. And it's the one area that has been first exploited with 3.0 that is allowing, by the way, a non-government mandated market-driven approach because we can provide value. Listening to Carrie earlier about we could screw this thing up. Yeah, we could screw this thing up, but we're going to have to try real hard to screw it up if in fact we've now got if you look at the inside process of ATSC, you literally have major carriers engaged inside of ATSC around the idea of how do I get access to your spectrum? How do I get access to your infrastructure? How can I allow my bits to flow across your platform? That's a position that we've never been in.
Yeah.
I'd add one more thing to
Okay.
reaching into my RF comms background that Carrie loves when I do this, but SFNs. I mean,
Yes.
it's very basic, but that is a really, important, I think, future tool in the toolkit that,
Absolutely.
that we tried as an industry to make work in 1.0 and it does not work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and let me pile on there, Brett, because you and I have been working on this together, MFNs as well.
Yeah.
So the idea to cellularize television signals to go from one market to the next, and keeping an automobile, for example, in a bubble of data, whether it's across different frequencies or same frequencies, we've done this now, and now we're trying to make it military grade, if you will. But TV signals have been 3.0 signals have been cellularized. We've proved that out across Michigan, and we've been able to cross geographies and cross frequencies and keep video and audio and backseat entertainment and NRT or data delivery to the car, between markets. And by the way, that's not only using full powers like all of us are privileged to license, but it's also using low powers as well.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, LTN is a multicast network. So we're very excited about the future SFNs with ATSC 3. Now we're getting in, we got like a minute left. So some of these questions we're not going to be able to get to. We'll try to, get them in writing to these folks if possible. But I wanted to ask one last question of the panelists. And again, guys, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I have one more question, and that is, any closing thoughts on all the opportunities that we just talked about that ATSC 3 creates?
All of them.
I'll tell you one, antennas. What is old is new again and cool again. And the ATSC 3 doesn't work without an antenna. So when we buy those new TVs, we want to also encourage the connection and proper installation of TV antennas. And so, we really have to bundle TVs plus antennas together in the future.
Mhm.
And it's kind of funny when, we talk to young people and, the idea of an antenna is weird. Some of them think that it's actually like copyright theft, it can't be that free, but it is. And so you will see our company, and hopefully others will join us in really promoting over the air and the use of antennas, not only for 3.0, but 1.0 as we move forward.
Definitely.
Now, my serious notion would be mobility. And by the way, the small antenna of this, if you can address this device, you can address any device.
Makes sense.
I'll throw out there, one thing that we haven't talked about, but to abstract a lot of the details, we've been brainstorming these different things, capabilities that the standard can do. I still think that perhaps the best idea has not been thought of yet. And, one of the things that we talk about, the folks on this call, when we get together in our, Zoom calls privately, is we talk about 3.0 next gen TV as a platform on which innovation can be built on top of. So I'd close with that and say, to the audience, that's probably a really good way to think about what this is. We are making a giant leap forward in sort of the backbone technology that drives this ubiquitous distribution platform. And if you think of it as just that, it is a big platform that you can innovate on, that you can, provide services and data. And I'm just really excited about, kind of getting through that transition and then having this platform and then watching what all kinds of really smart people at our TV stations and other folks are going to figure out how to do on this thing.
One of the things that we said together in preparation for this, and this is, John and Mark and Brett and me, we don't want to be up here on this panel next year. We want all of you to be on this panel telling us what you're doing new and great, and how you're making money or framing your first dollars with 3.0. So, hopefully you won't see our mugs up here next year. It will be all you.
Definitely. Well, we're at the end of our time. I want to thank all the attendees for coming on. Sorry we weren't able to get to all your questions. Obviously, this topic is a huge interest, and maybe we should do it again another time. I want to thank the panelists for joining us today. I hope that everybody enjoyed the conversation and received at least one golden nugget of knowledge to take away. If you need to reach me, please email me. Again, thank you to all the panelists for taking all the time that you did with us. And I know you guys all have super busy schedules, so thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to speaking with all of you again soon. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll talk again later. Take care. Bye now.
Bye-bye.